a little bit more.
Just a little bit more.
That's what I'm here for.
That's what I'm here for.
Gonna do DC.
Gonna do DC.
Just my friends and me.
Just my friends and me.
Hey, are you looking for the ultimate summer trip that's just a little bit more?
Listen up, because we have a plan for you.
It's an all-expense-paid trip to our nation's capital city.
Did we mention that it's free?
Yep, it's the Youth Tour, and it's just a little bit more.
This is a trip that's been around a long time, like more than 40 years. That's how long the electric cooperatives of Texas have been sending people like us to Washington, D.C. on the Youth Tour.
Check out the clothes these swingers are wearing and the dance moves. Wow. It's hard to believe that Mom and Dad actually acted like that. But for almost everybody who's been on the Youth Tour, it was the experience of a lifetime.
And today it's even better, so listen up while we tell you about the youth trip. Then do whatever it takes to get here next year, because this trip is a pedal to the metal, eat and run, non-stop, action-packed adventure.
Rollin', 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 keep those buses rollin'. Yeah, you win this trip to DC and think, great, let's fly to DC. Dream on, Stargazer. That's not how it works. Oh no, we load everyone up on buses and travel for 3 days to get there. Buses?
But we're not talking about any yellow-bellied, smoke-blowing, bounce-your-insides-out school buses. Oh, no. We roll down the road in these giant luxury liners, smooze with new friends, and watch movies to make the miles melt away. And when there's nothing else to do, we sleep.
Every year, the Youth Tour goes to a musical or play. This year, the first thing we did when we got to Washington, D.C. was plop down in a dinner theater and groove to the musical stage show that featured pop songs from the 50s to present. It was a great way to start the week.
The Youth Tour is a national event with delegations from 43 different states in attendance. That's more than 1,500 kids from all across America. On Rural Youth Day, we got together and learned about electric cooperatives, listened to a motivational speaker, and held a lively town hall meeting. It was all fun, even if we learned something.
Show me the money. That's what I came here for, and boy did I hit the jackpot, because we visited the Bureau of Printing and Engraving, which is where they print the money. I tried to talk them out of some samples and failed completely. But take heart, naysayers, you can buy souvenirs.
The Kennedy Center for Performing Arts is a beautiful building that sits on the shores of the Potomac River. Its classic theaters, long hallways, and elegantly appointed foyers contains all kinds of artistic wonders from around the world. Isn't it amazing what you can do with bottle caps and marbles?
One thing we do regularly on the Youth Tour is eat. As a matter of fact, some of us felt like we ate away across America. Every time we turned around, we were eating again, but I didn't mind it much.
And the places we go had great food from all over the world, but I kind of stuck to the basic food groups like hamburgers, pizza, and french fries. You can never go wrong with health food.
Standing on the steps of the Capitol is an overwhelming experience. You've seen it in books, magazines, and TV, but nothing compares to being here in person. Great Americans have stood in this exact spot throughout the history of our country. Having your picture taken here makes you a part of that history.
No other building represents freedom and democracy more than the Capitol building. Around the world, this place is revered for representing the interests of the common man. Inside are spectacular paintings that tell the famous stories of American history. At the top of the rotunda sits George Washington surrounded by angels, looking down on all who visit. It is truly an amazing building.
One highlight on the Youth Tour is visiting with your congressman. When I visited my congressman, we were all crowded into a small office. However, it was all worth it. We were able to ask questions concerning important issues of the day and receive an inside glimpse on how Congress really works.
And that's why it's so important for electric cooperative leaders to come as your directors from your cooperatives were here a few weeks ago lobbying Congress on behalf of rural electrification. It's called lobbying. To a lot of people it's a four-letter word, but it's not. It's absolutely necessary for our government to function. that people come in and tell their representatives what's important, what's not.
The National Archives is home to some of the most important documents of our nation. Chief among these is the Declaration of Independence, which created the United States, and the Constitution that guarantees our freedoms. Visiting this place reminds you of what a privilege it is to be an American.
The Twilight Tattoo was really fantastic. No, we didn't go join a line of drunken sailors and have pictures drawn all over our bodies. We went to a performance put on by the United States Army. There were examples of the role that they played in the history of our country, an incredible drill team exhibition, not to mention some really cute guys. I had a blast because I got to sit in the driver's seat of a Humvee. Talk about a muscle car.
This is definitely top secret. I'm not really supposed to say much about this, but I'll let you in on our tour of the FBI building. We got to see state-of-the-art forensic laboratories, learn about some of history's most notorious criminals, and see what the price of crime costs to those that run afoul of the law. I'd like to tell you more, but if I did, I'd have to shoot you.
It was just another Friday night performance at the struggling Washington Playhouse Theater in 1865, when President Abraham Lincoln attended a performance of Our American Cousin. With one shot from a small pistol, John Wilkes Booth killed the president and changed the course of history.
The presidential box is still the same today as it was on that fateful night. Downstairs is a museum that houses the coat the president was wearing and the gun that Booth used to kill him. It's American history come to life on the youth tour.
The Washington National Cathedral is an idea first conceived by George Washington. This structure took more than 80 years to complete and was built entirely from donations.
Inside, this place dazzles the eyes and lifts the spirits. The beauty of the sanctuaries is literally breathtaking. It was interesting to find out that this masterpiece contains Texas limestone. Throughout, the many stained glass windows depict stories from the Bible to modern day times. There's even a window with a rock from the moon in it.
Youth Tour does a lot of interesting things. We got a chance to visit many historical sites, see impressive buildings, and hear powerful lectures. We also got a chance to get our boogie on at the All-States Dance and Dinner. Two of the top people in the dance contest were from Texas. You know, we have to show them how it's done. It was cool.
One of the newest memorials in Washington is dedicated to Franklin Roosevelt, who was the only president to serve more than 2 terms in office. It's an outdoor memorial with many waterfalls, and this giant statue of the man who led this nation out of the Great Depression and through World War II.
The Smithsonian Institution is sometimes referred to as America's Attic. It is the world's largest museum complex located on the Mall in Washington and attracts more tourists every year than any other tourist center in the nation.
Since mankind first gazed into the heavens, he has dreamed of flying. The Air and Space Museum is the most visited museum in the world. Here, every flying contraption imaginable is on display. As you walk into the museum, you're greeted by the very first powered flying contraption, the Wright Flyer. It was less than 100 years ago when Wilbur and Orville first lifted off of this machine.
Also housed here is the Spirit of St. Louis, the first plane to cross the Atlantic Ocean in 1927. And next to it is General Chuck Yeager's X-1, which was the first plane to break the sound barrier. There are also several spacecraft on display here. If you're into the flying thing, you definitely need to check this place out in person.
For all of us sophisticated and refined types, there's the National Art Gallery, which houses some of the finest artwork in the world. The aura that surrounds one while visiting this place is a swirling kaleidoscope of color and form, which visually excites the eye and stimulates the mind. These statues are also an attention grabber.
The Smithsonian Sculpture Garden is an outdoor gallery displaying many works of modern sculpture. Now, some of them are off the wall, and some of them are interesting works of geometric designs. Now, the harebrained thinker was one that made me want to say, what was he really thinking about?
Diamonds are a girl's best friend, and the bestest friend a girl could ever have is on display at the Natural History Museum. It's the Hope Diamond, the biggest diamond in the world. Also displayed here are rare and not so rare animals and examples of how Americans lived before Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
For some of us, visiting the Smithsonian was worth everything we had to do to come on this trip, which wasn't much when you think about all the cool stuff that we get to do. Remember, you could be seeing all these things and more next June because the Youth Tour really is just a little bit more.
One of the most famous statues in the world is the Iwo Jima Memorial, sitting on a Virginia hillside overlooking our nation's capital city. It is the official United States Marine Memorial and is a stark reminder of what the price of freedom truly is.
No trip would be complete without the chance to do some serious shopping. On the Youth Tour, we get to do this from Texas to DC and back. From high-rise shopping malls to little street-side vendors, shopping abounds.
Mount Vernon is the plantation George Washington called home. He loved this place with a passion that is unrivaled in American history. As you walk through the house, you get a sense of what everyday life was like for him. More than 80% of the structure is original. It does something to you when you rub your hand across a banister and realize he touched that same wood.
The silent shards of stone at Arlington National Cemetery stand as a stark reminder of what the true price of freedom is. This hallowed ground is the final resting place for more than 200,000 American soldiers who fought in wars from the Revolution to Desert Storm. Each way you look, the headstones are in a row. This symbolizes that the troops are still in formation and that they are ready to defend our country if she needed them.
The changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknowns was a solemn and moving event. The precision of the soldiers was flawless. It is comforting to know that America remembers those who have given so much to preserve our way of life.
Freedom is not free. It requires sacrifice, sometimes the ultimate sacrifice. I helped lay the wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier today. As I stood there while the bugler was playing taps, I began to wonder about the men that were honored there. What were their names? It was only then that the inscription on the tomb really struck home, known only to God.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the youngest president this country ever had. His vision and foresight propelled America into space and prepared her for the 21st century. His untimely death on a Dallas street shocked the nation. The eternal flame at his gravesite reminds us all of the light he cast for a short time. May we never forget.
In my town, mass transit means a few pickup trucks down at the Dairy Queen. But Youth Tour today takes a clickety-clack ride on the Metro, Washington, D.C.'s subway system. It was really cool being packed in like sardines and holding onto the ceiling rails for dear life. Wait till they see this at home.
You've seen it on TV and in the movies, but until you stand at the foot of the Lincoln Memorial, you can never really appreciate how large and beautiful it really is. The eyes of the statue seem to follow you no matter where you go. His vision of the mighty nation we could be is the reality we live today.
My visit to the Vietnam War Memorial was something I will never forget. As I stood there watching the three soldiers, it seemed as if they were alive. At the wall, I made a rubbing of three names, men who served in Vietnam with my father. This accentuated the tragedy of war, which really strikes home when you look at the more than 58,000 names on the wall and realize that's all that's left of young men who are not much older than me.
The Korean War was fought in the early 1950s, yet it was almost half a century later before the soldiers that fought it were honored with the memorial in our nation's capital. It is one of the more unusual memorials which has a squad of soldiers moving through a rice paddy. In the fading daylight, you can almost picture yourself there with them.
The Jefferson Memorial sits on what is known as the Tidal Basin. It was built to honor the man who wrote the Declaration of Independence and was the third president of the United States.
The 40-foot bronze statue stands looking across the city at the White House, as if to let those who live there now know that the giants of the past are still watching. When I saw the statue, it made me think how blessed our country has always been to have outstanding people when they were needed.
Lookout Mountain, Tennessee is the last stop on our youth tour. For more than a week, we have traveled together as one big family. As we ride in a cable car almost a mile into the sky, the clouds are so close it feels like you can reach out and touch them. At the top, our devotional is moving and emotional because we know that we will soon have to say goodbye to all our new friends.
Before you come on this trip, be sure to pack a great pair of walking shoes because you'll be walking for miles on the youth tour. We kept asking how much further we had to go, and the answer always came back just a little bit more.
You know, there are people back home that I've known all my life who aren't as close of friends as some of the folks I've met on this trip. If you want to broaden your horizon and discover a whole new world, Youth Tour is definitely the place to start.
Well, that's the Youth Tour, a 2-week adventure that's just a little bit more than you'd ever expect.
Do whatever it takes to go on this voyage because it's definitely the experience of a lifetime.
Because it is definitely
just a little